The thought of an interview puts the fear of God into you, gets the heart racing, sweaty palms, don't know what to do, don't know what to say, don't know what to think. We've all been there. I've been there, and I still get there in certain situations. You don't know what to say, you get tongue-tied, you're lost, you look a little bit silly, and it's all because of the consequences. And it's a fear of what you think is going to happen. Or for me, it's a fear of what I think is going to happen and the consequences. But professionally, this is the exact method that I used to use to stay calm, or I still use to stay calm before meetings and interviews. And it's a simple process of mastering the product and understanding the outcome. And once we can master these two concepts, we can reduce the anxiety and turn an interview into an opportunity. And I find cold calling and interviews actually quite enjoyable. There's other situations, other social situations that I find incredibly awkward, but professionally, cold calling, not a problem. Interviews, love them. And before any meeting, I learned the product. And more than the product, I listened to customers, I identified their needs, and I found the aspects of the product that were the most important to them. And I looked for as few features in the product that were important as I could get away with. And where they're handling units, I could find 2 features. The rest of it becomes noise, and you can focus on those 2 things because that's what the customers have told you are important. And it's exactly the same with the interview. There are 5 forms of questions that 4 features from you. We can look at 4 main stories from your life that are going to be the backbone of your interview. And any question that is asked is always going to come back to those 4 features. Exactly the same with the product. Didn't matter what I was asked about the product, it would always come back to the 2 features I had, or the single feature I had. In one company, it was 5-day lead times. In another, it was a little bit abstract in that it was the confidence of the manager having my back, that he would always support me and his staff in front of the customer. That gave you a confidence. And where they're handling units, it was knowing volumes and noise ratings. They were the key aspects. Nothing else really mattered. You could work around it. So it's finding strong stories that are going to fit the product that you can take into any meeting. They're the 2 things that you're going to talk about. They're the single thing you're going to talk about. In the interview, the 4 things that you're going to talk about. Second thing I looked at was, what was the worst that could possibly happen? They say no. You go for an interview, they say no. What? Nothing changes. But you've learned something. You can go back home, you can turn the computer off, and you can have a look to see where you went wrong. Where did you fail? You can build on that. We can get back to these 4 points. The story should be strong enough that it doesn't matter what questions you're asked. The 5 style of interview questions are always going to fit around these 4 stories that you develop. An ex-director of mine, during my induction period, I was in the office, I was writing a quote. I wanted to finish the quote and she wanted to go home. It's not life or death, she said. Leave it. Pick it up tomorrow. It wasn't. And when it comes to interview, I blew an interview because of a double espresso. I drove 200 miles, got to the interview location a couple of hours before, had a pick-me-up espresso, and I honestly have no idea what happened in the interview. I completely blew it, to the point that I had to apologise to the guy in the first interview because he put me forward to the second interview. It was an appalling interview, and I simply don't know what happened. And with these strategies, I turned an area that was turning over £30,000 per year into an area that was turning over 300,000. That was almost exclusively with cold calling. But I knew I had a strong feature, and that was 5-day lead time. I turned a £200,000 pipeline into a more or less £5 million pipeline because I knew the product I had, and that was BB101, and the aspect of air handling units having the correct volume with the correct noise rating. I also doubled my salary in a period of about 5 or 6 years. So it applies to interviews as well, that I went into interviews for high pressure sales jobs. I've got anxiety, but I went through these jobs and I doubled my salary. If I can do it, you can do it too. And we could just work together and build on your strengths, because you've got strengths. So if you're preparing for an interview, do you know your product? Have you got the key selling points? These 4 stories that are going to be the cornerstones of your interview. Is the interview life or death? If it's not, what are we getting stressed about? Minimise the risk and improve the chance of success. So drop a comment if you've got strategies which are different to this that you've used. If you've used a strategy like this, was it successful? If you've got a question about it, send a question. Like and subscribe. There's a lot more where this is coming from. And thank you very much for watching. See you next time.